Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's your reluctant Gringo, and I guess we can start there. Gringo. I didn't know that YouTube actually flags that word as offensive or potentially dangerous or whatnot. People call me that all the time down here. I don't feel potentially dangerous or potentially in danger. I guess it's kind of weird. I should look into that. But yeah, welcome to the channel. We're here south of the border in Go Mexico, cold Mexico. Let me tell you, cold. It's going to get down about 42, 41 degrees where I am at, which is weird because during the day, it's like 75, 76, 77. It's hot. It's closer to the equator, so the sun is out, and it just feels like it's beach weather. And then, it gets to be 5 o'clock, and between 5 and 6 o'clock, it drops about 20 degrees from about 75 to about 55, and just keeps dropping, which is why I look all wrapped up here with my hat, my glasses, my, this is actually not a scarf, but I love using it. It is actually from, it's a Syrian garb. It's a Syrian headdress, but I just have it wrapped around my neck. And no, it's not cultural appropriation. I'm Syrian and Lebanese, so don't give me no crap. Anyways, so yeah, really cold. So much so that, the weather just drops and boom, it's freezing. And then you get it cold, you feel sick and just your body's not ready for it. That's how it is. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, let me tell you, after the less than 24 hours, or maybe it's been 24 hours since President Trump, or President-elect, I should say, president. I don't know. He was president, so you can call him president. And he's president-elect, so you can call him president-elect. I don't know if either one's right or wrong, but I'm just going to call him Mr. President or President Trump. So President Trump announced on Truth Social about tariffs in Mexico, about putting in 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, by the way. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that because Mexico's president had a response. And let me tell you, it's real interesting being an American living in Mexico. I'm sure maybe you've heard things on the news and, oh, people feel this way, people feel that way. Look, I live down here. I'm the only American that I know. I mean, my wife's an American. She's an American citizen. She became a citizen. She's originally Mexican. So I'm the only real American that I know down here. So everybody else I talk to is a Mexican citizen. And I'll tell you what they're thinking and how they feel. Not only about what's going on here in this country, but as it relates to the United States. And it's all hearsay. I get it. It's not really scientific, but I always find that when you talk to people, it's some of the best information you get, anecdotal evidence. One story is one story, but when one story becomes being told to you 20 different times in the same way, it starts to become evidence, right? I guess that's the way we could look at it. So yeah, definitely interesting being an expat, living in Mexico. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's still fun. It's a little weird. It's a little odd with everything, with all the politics. You're not really sure which way things are going to go. And you always think of your own safety and security and your own economic future. But I'm not too worried about most stuff, but we'll get into some of that. But definitely President Trump stirring the pot. And I mean, that's what he does. Kind of saw it coming. I guess if you didn't see it coming, that he was going to do something like this or say something like this or potentially impose something like this when he gets elected or when he gets inaugurated on January 20th, to impose these kind of tariffs, these type of, I would call them fines, call them tariffs, call them fines, whatever. Same thing. That's what they are. You had to see it coming. I mean, if you're, the president of Mexico, who was the first woman ever elected to the office here in Mexico, she's supposedly got all sorts of degrees, like all sorts of doctorate degrees and master's degrees. Like she's got like multiple degrees. So obviously she's an intelligent person. We'll get into her in a minute or in a few minutes. So I would think that someone that intelligent with that much sort of academics behind her probably either anticipated it. She sounded a little more, I don't know, surprised, I guess, when she came out. She sounded like just the tone. I mean, it measured enough, but it just did the defiance. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is going to get interesting. And again, being an American on this side of the fence or the wall or whatever, it definitely has a perspective. So, but anyways, but before we get into all that, some fun stuff, it's coming, my favorite holiday, or I shouldn't say my favorite holiday. It's one of my favorite holidays, one of my two favorite holidays in all the year, right? Thanksgiving is coming up, and they really don't do things. It's an American holiday. So sometimes you can get a turkey down here, you make it yourself, whatever. But it's just me and my wife. Why would we make a full turkey dinner just for her and I? And she doesn't eat turkey. So it would just be a turkey for me kind of voice. So we find restaurants that serve like an American style Thanksgiving dinner, and we go to that. We eat that. That's our Thanksgiving. It's fun. It's good. It does the trick. I still get to watch football and everything. So that's coming up. And yeah, I used to work retail. I used to tell people I used to work retail. I don't miss Black Friday at all. I don't know. You got to be a lunatic to want to go stand in line and whatnot for something that, excuse me, for something that's not that high quality for that, that kind of price. It's not really that low of a price. But anyways, Mexico had their Black Friday or their Black Friday weekend. I don't know if they even, what they call it, last week. And it coincides, I guess. And I know some countries in Europe. I was talking to my son who lives in Europe. He's like, some countries do that here. A lot of the countries do that here in Europe. Is where if you work for the government or if you work for a private company, you get your regular check on that Friday, and then you get either one extra or two extra, and in some rare cases, 3 extra checks. Boom, free. You don't have to work for them. And it's sort of like, here's your money for the holidays because they want everybody to have a great holiday, great Christmas, and all that. So the stores always call, they know what day that's coming. And so you got the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and into Tuesday, massive sales. It's just insane. And my wife and I stayed away from the malls that weekend. But it just reminded me of the chaos that used to be Black Friday. Now there's a lot of online sales, and I know people do a lot of online shopping, and it sort of alleviates that. When I started out in retail, and then for the first half of my retail career, it was the non-online, people really didn't trust online sales at that point. There was still something new. Amazon wasn't really anywhere near what it is now. So I used to, I've got stories of Black Friday, just the chaos, the stampedes, especially the city stores, the bigger stores, the stampedes, the fights, getting pushed, getting shoved, getting spit on, getting hit, getting sworn at. It's just insane what people will do for an item or whatever the item might be. Just absolutely insane. So I don't miss that at all. And if you plan on going out for Black Friday and to try to get that deal, to go wait in a line, take it for someone who was in retail. It's not worth it. Believe me, I've seen the prices go up and down over 23 years of my life. And it's not worth it, but good luck. Have fun. I think I went out Black Friday shopping once in my life, 1 year, and I said, no, not going to do that again. I hated it. Some people love it. And then they make a whole thing of it. They get together and let's get our coffee and our Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or whatever, and we'll get a breakfast sandwich or whatever. I don't know. Excuse me. So like I said, it's really cold out, so I think I'm coming down with a cold. But yeah, so they had that this weekend. So we're full Christmas swing here because, like I said, there's no Thanksgiving. So it's really cheap. But I did go out. I did a little shopping. I realized I needed some notebooks. And I'm going to answer some questions. Some viewers had some questions about, because I do movie reviews, and they're like, well, how do you watch that stuff? I'm going to get into it. So, I'm preparing for my kids to come, but, I needed some stuff to write. I like writing. I can't type everything down. So, some pencils, gel pens, is what it is. Found these really cool retro notebooks. Enjoy popcorn, sort of like for the movies. These are like 20 pesos, which is basically $1. So I said, I got a couple. So I got that one, and then, gasoline. So cool retro stuff. Just, they have paper stores everywhere, notebook stores everywhere. It's not like chains. It's like a real industry here. You walk in, they got notebooks, envelopes, anything paper, writing-wise. It's crazy. Office Max, Staples, that stuff. I mean, it is Office Max here, but they haven't really killed that business, and they sell things so cheap. I got this notebook. This is cool. I found this. Really cool. Nice hardcover notebook. And this was 40 pesos, which means it was $2. Nice lined paper inside. All sorts of symbols, Justice League. And then I went nuts because I saw the picture of it, and I said, I got to have this one. I went notebook crazy for some reason. Here we go. Woohoo! I actually own this comic book. I own the original. It's in probably, if I got it graded, it would probably be around a 9.56 or 7. I love this. My favorite Joker comic book. My favorite. This is issue. This is Batman issue number 251. It's the the Joker comes back after years of not being used. And, but I said, oh man, I gotta get that. I gotta have that one. So, and if you're really interested in that comic book, somewhere on the channel, I'll put the link in the description later on. But I did a whole full recap and review of the entire comic, pictures and all, and it's part of our Welcome to the Comic Verse playlist. So if you're interested in that comic book, cool. So anyways, speaking of shopping and buying stuff, before we get into Trump and Mexico and tariffs and all that fun stuff and find out how screwed I may or may not be. There was, I was talking about movies last week. We were talking about Wicked and Gladiator 2 and all that. And people are like, well, how do you watch those movies? So one person really was like, how do you watch? I'm like, what do you mean, how do I watch? Because I'm in Mexico, they figured everything's in Spanish, which obviously, yes, everything's in Espanol. But there's plenty. But if you're in the bigger cities, Mexico City, Puebla, Guadalajara, Querétaro, especially Querétaro, because there's a lot of huge American international business there. Monterrey, but really the bigger cities. And excuse me. And you go there, you'll see they have two categories. They have the movies, and it says ESP, obviously Espanol, which means the movie is dubbed in Spanish. And so if you speak Spanish and understand Spanish and you want to watch it, that's fine, but it's dubbed in Spanish. And you'll see the other ones that says SUB, subtitle. And that means that it's the regular movie in English with Spanish subtitles. And those are the ones that my wife and I will usually go see. And then, I was like, I was really sure Moana 2 comes out this week in Mexico, I think early Wednesday. I forgot. I think it hits the States on Thursday or Friday. And I was gonna go review it. I can't find they're not issuing it with subtitles. They're not issuing it in English with subtitles in Spanish. And it's probably for two reasons. One, it's Disney. And if you know anything about Disney in Mexico, it's a huge deal. Huge deal. Anything you put Disney on it, it's going to sell like crazy. I mean, it's just gangbusters. So they probably want to maximize as many showings to the Spanish audience as possible. And two, there's probably just so much going back and forth. Yeah, I was surprised Wicked, because it's a musical. Sometimes that gets difficult with the translation and things like that. So, but we was able to see Wicked. So it might be because this is a musical and they're not doing it. It'd be the first time I ever see something like that. But anyways, so we're like, how do you watch? So that's how I watch. And movies are really cheap. But I'm going to get into some more movie stuff here because I got some stuff here right here. Really, really cheap. Like $5 a ticket. So anyways, or here's the thing. Movie theaters, they're not like in the United States where every town you go to, there's a movie theater within like a 3-mile radius. It's not like I've met people in Mexico, like normal middle-class people who live in rural areas, my age, maybe even older, and some younger teenagers and whatnot. There's a lot. I mean, there's a huge population that has never been in a movie theater. They've never actually seen a movie in a movie theater. It's crazy because there's no movie where they live. There's no movie theaters. You even to drive to a movie theater, you have to get on a bus for 3 hours or get in your car for 3 hours. And no one's going to do that. No one's going to drive 3 hours just to see a movie and come back unless you really, really, really want to see it. So DVDs are a big deal. But special kind of DVDs. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this. So when a movie is released, the day it's released in Mexico, usually if you're in a town that doesn't have a movie theater, bigger town, they have these people. They have, these pop-up shops. Let's call them that. And, you want Deadpool or Wolverine? There you go. So, and you're probably thinking quality. Quality's great. Actually, it's digital. I had one guy explain to me his Godzilla -1. All that. I picked up a couple of these just for show and tell. I never had a problem going and seeing a movie, but I really wanted to, because some people are asking, well, how do you watch movies down here and stuff like that? We'll get into that because some more stuff in television. So I had one of the guys they'll explain it to you. They don't care. It's not like they're trying to hide. They're right there. So they said that, nope, there's There's a whole network that will get them the USB or whatever device that has the digital copy of a movie already on it. And they just mass produce the thing. And it goes out everywhere. And so it's for like a couple bucks, right? Couple bucks. And I think this is like you get it for like $2. And like on the day that they're released. And that's because people just don't have access to movie theaters. And so I think it's sort of, I know it's not allowed, but it's tolerated, I think, just because people realize, there aren't movie theaters all over the place. And that's why this I think this whole thing exists. Otherwise, I don't think this whole thing would exist if there were movie theaters available for everybody. If there's one thing I've learned in Mexican culture, they love going to the movies. I mean, love going to the movie theaters. It's a big thing to do. It's very popular thing to do. It's just very rare I go to a movie that's not, especially on opening day or opening weekend, that's not sold out. No matter what the movie is. Okay, I shouldn't say that. Madam Web, not sold out. Argyle, not sold out. That was no one wanted to see that. Captain Marvel, not sold out. No one was there. I remember walking. I think it was the first time I ever walked into a theater in Mexico, and I'm like, oh, I'm the only one here. I'm like, you're looking around. Usually the place is filled, packed. Anyways, so yeah, you get these. The only thing is, sometimes they tell you, oh yeah, it's in English, and it's not like. So this is Deadpool and Wolverine in Espanol. And no, you can't. It doesn't have an audio menu to change it. So I was like, it was funny because I'm like, I popped it in. I said, okay, let's see this, and it started out all in Espanol till I got to the the NSYNC song, and then that was in English. And but yeah, and some of the voice acting, it's funny because it doesn't come out right. But yeah, that's how they watch movies. That's how we get to see movies. Now, again, I'm a movie theater guy, but if I was living in rural everywhere and I wanted to see a movie, that's basically, so you were doing release. That's how you're going to see it. As far as somebody else was asking about television and stuff, if you got a VPN, most of the time, like if you got a Sling thing or a Sling subscription, that'll work. Netflix, all that stuff, right? And then there's all sorts of other ways to get your TV down here. Different subscriptions. You just have to choose which one you want and which one you care about, if you care about it all. I don't really watch much TV. Literally YouTube, Netflix, Disney Plus. I got those, and it usually does it for me for the stuff I got to do. I think I got Paramount. I think I got HBO Max too. Yeah, I have Max. Yeah, because I watched the Penguin. Anyway, so there's all sorts of it's not hard. And then and then there's not really cable. I never met anybody that has cable down here. There's not really a cable thing. Everything is antenna, digital antenna. I'm not going to be able to get this over here. Anyways, I wish I could show you, but I've got it in my hand right here. Yeah, it's a digital antenna, HD digital antenna. All the channels are free if you want to watch Mexican news, which is interesting. But yeah, that's so to answer the question from last time, how do you watch? That's how I watch. That's how we watch stuff down here. Easy to me. Some things, even if you use a VPN, what they do is it detects the VPN and says no, thank you. I forgot it might have been Sling. It's a lot easier. Maybe they eased off on it now, but it used to say we detect a VPN, so you're not going to let you use this. And I'm like, oh damn. So and there's a ton of different VPNs out there, and I'm not advocating for either one, or I'm not advertising any of this stuff. It's what I use, it's what I do, it's what I have. But it might be interesting to see Despicable Me 4 in Espanol. Instead of saying banana, they say plantain, maybe. I don't know. Interesting. But yeah, and then these movies hang out on DVD well after. Like I could go to one of these places. I might, if I'm able to get back to one of these towns, I'll go into one of them, and at some point in time, and I'll do a little video. And believe me, the shopkeepers, they don't care. They're like, whatever. They don't give a damn. They're friendly as hell. They probably look at it as free advertising. Anyways, so that's how we watch stuff. That's how we watch stuff. It's great. I don't really miss. When you move down here, you don't really miss that stuff. You don't really miss that stuff. You get used to I didn't really watch much TV anyways when I was up. When you think about cable, what the hell uses cable? Like I said, if you got YouTube, you're pretty much halfway there. Anyways, enough of that. Enough of the movies. Just thinking to myself. Get this, but anyways. So yeah, Black Friday weekend here came and went, and then the president decided to say something, and that was interesting. And we're gonna get into it because, oh man, this is gonna get fun. I mean, this really is gonna get fun when it comes down to this young lady here. Let's see here. Let's pull up the article. Let's transition. Okay, and let's go full screen. Boom. There we go. I'm going to ruin her name probably. Sheinbaum. President Claudia Sheinbaum. So this is Mexico suggests it would impose its own tariffs to retaliate against any Trump tariffs. Okay. And there's a car industry that goes back and forth. I get that. But she came out. That's her. And this is the AP. And I wanted to use the AP, the Associated Press, because they're more left-leaning. I mean, most media outlets are left-leaning. I get that, right? But they're really left-leaning. But that's her. She's the first female president of Mexico. So they did it before the United States. So there we go. So President Claudia Sheinbaum suggested Tuesday that Mexico could retaliate with tariffs of its own after U.S. President-elect Donald Trump threatened to impose 25% import duties on Mexican goods if the country doesn't stop the flow of drugs and migrants across the border. So before we go on with this, even the AP calls this president, Sheinbaum, Claudia Sheinbaum, calls her a leftist ideologue. And actually, I want to get they had a great quote here. Not quote, but a great description. Hold on, let me see here. I really want to find this because it was so good. How they describe it. Sheinbaum, who took office on October 1st, is a stern leftist ideologue trained in radical student protest movements and appears less willing to pacify or mollify Trump. Now, the previous president Trump got along with. Now, he was, again, very left-leaning as well, but he's more of an old-school pragmatic politician who, wanted to get along. And there's this whole movement that he started that she's continuing. And I get it. Like, I don't have anything against it that usually the dynamic of the relationship between the United States and Mexico is that Mexico always felt like the United States looked down upon them like they were second-class country, right? And there's sort of like a movement to say, like, no, we're just as important or we're just as vital as the United States. You can have that debate all you want. I'm not here for that debate. But again, it's national pride. The United States has got the MAGA movement. It's a national pride movement. It's nationalism. Mexico's got its own nationalism, just it's more in a more of a left-leaning way. So, I just think it's interesting. Everybody who steps up to the microphone and says they're going to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump usually ends up losing. So it's really interesting to see that she's going to step up and publicly kind of come out and basically say, here's my stance, and no, we're going to do this. She wants to talk. She wants to do this. She thinks there's something. She thinks there's some wiggle room. And I think when it comes to I think this is one of the mainstays of his campaign, one of the main promises of his campaign. I don't think there's going to be any wiggle room. And this is going to get interesting because it is such an interlocked relationship down here between the United States and Mexico. And you see that. Now, with her particularly, and then today I had the privilege of sitting around with a bunch of Mexican citizens, and we talked about everything under the sun. And then they asked me and my wife, who do we vote for? We told them, and we asked them, well, who would you prefer? Who did you prefer in the president election? They all said Trump. Every one of them. These are Mexican citizens. They all said Trump. So we like him. And I explained this in another video. I'm going to explain it again. Most of the people that you see coming up and coming across the southern border and into the United States, they're not Mexicans. What happens is you have these caravans, or you call them caravans, right? They come up. They got to go through somewhere first. Guess where they got to go through? They got to go through Mexico. Now, not all of them. There's a great deal, a good percentage of them that don't make it to the U.S. border. So what do? Well, they decide to stay where they stopped, which is usually Mexico. And so I've seen multiple times the National Guard of Mexico, the State Police of Mexico, things like that. And these are military-looking units. Pull over vehicles, pull over pickup trucks, box vans, things like that. And I'm like, what are they looking for? Are they looking for drugs? And she's like, no. They're looking for people. They're looking for people because they don't want them, as much of a problem as the United States has, and I'm not comparing either one. I'm trying not to say, one's worse off than the other. Mexico has the same problem. And it's increasing crime, it's increasing danger and violence and things like that here as well. And you see it, and you hear about it, and you read about it. And, again, anecdotal evidence from people who live in this country, from Mexico City to Puebla to Guadalajara. You hear it from Querétaro, Cancun, Tulum, things like that. You hear it all over the place. And so they don't want this immigration problem any more than the United States does. But there's got to be, some sort of better solution than what's going on now. And I think she's going to get off on the wrong foot because, again, I want to, she had her words here. Scheinbaum said she was willing to engage in talks on the issues, but said drugs were a U.S. problem. That's the mistake. There's a whole thing here in Mexico where, look, those organizations that control that type of business, and I don't want to use the C word, get myself in trouble. Yeah, they're more powerful than she is. And she's the president. So, of course, she's going to come out. She's not going to do anything about it. She doesn't want, being the leftist ideologue, they believe they had this thing called hugs, not, hugs instead of drugs, right? Something like that. It was weird. I forgot what it was like. There was some sort of weird saying for it where the government tried to say, listen, to the businesses that were doing things that maybe President Trump wished they wouldn't do. Again, not going to use the C word. They said to those businesses, listen, you do what you got to do. You do your stuff. Just, don't cause war, don't cause violence and whatnot. But that didn't work, right? They figured if they kind of tried to find this peaceful coexistence, it would happen. It didn't happen. And it's not happening. Now they have to, then they tried to go back to being a little more hardline on it. That didn't work. It's just, it's rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic after it hit the iceberg, to use an overused metaphor. And that's what it is. But when she says drugs were a U.S. problem, okay. So what happens? The new borders are, and President Trump designates those organizations that he deems as terrorist organizations, and then they get the attention of the Tier 1 Special Forces units. They're designated Tier 1, and we're off and running at that point, folks. We don't know what, that'll be interesting in of itself. So I just think the way she's handling this or going about this is sort of trying to have this stiff upper lip about it. And she said, one tariff would be followed by another in response and so on until we put at risk common businesses. Scheinbaum said, referring to U.S. automakers that have plants on both sides of the border. Well, that's the thing. She's playing checkers. Donald Trump's already playing chess. And when I say playing chess, he's already said, I want to bring these manufacturers back over to the United States and give them tax breaks because he wants the American workers to have those jobs. So again, she's playing checkers. He's playing chess. He's already 2 moves, 3 moves, 5 moves ahead. She said Tuesday that Mexico had done a lot to stem the flow of migrants, noting caravans of migrants no longer reach the border. We know that's not true. She says a lot of things that aren't true. Yesterday or a couple days ago, she said products from China are not flowing into Mexico and up through the southern border into the United States, which I said that to a bunch of people who are Mexican citizens today, and they all started laughing at me. There's tons of Chinese product here. It's unbelievable, the Chinese take over the economy down here. And it's their attempt, China's attempt to come up through what we call the soft underbelly of the United States and take it over. It's economic warfare, right? It reminds me of history. You think back to World War II. What did the U.S. military have to do before they invaded Normandy? They had to come up underneath Italy. They called it the soft underbelly of Europe. Over through North Africa, across the Mediterranean, up north into Italy, Sicily, all that, and that helped them. That really was one of the things. We talk about Patton and all that. We get back. That is how militarily the United States and the Allied forces defeated the Germans. And it's the same tactic that China's using just economically to come up underneath our soft underbelly over the border with their products and flood the market. And so we'll have to see what gets done about that. Anyway, so caravans of migrants are no longer reaching the border. And again, we've seen the video evidence. You can turn this video of just massive caravans still coming. Some of them are breaking up and moving away. And granted, I see that, but there's still before January 20th and until Trump's more hardline stance on the border is put into effect, you're going to see these caravans. You're going to still see. I mean, the other day we had this little girl. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on Fox News, and I'll try to find it and link it in the description. A 2-year-old girl from I want to say Nicaragua. I could be wrong. Was apprehended at the border. A 2-year-old girl, and she had just a note with an address because her parents live in the United States. So somehow she made it up and walked all the. I don't know. She had to have some sort of help, but they don't know because she was alone. So don't tell me that stuff is stopped because there's thousands. How many children have been apprehended at the border, or so it's just I don't believe that caravans might no longer reach the border. Yes, they do. Mexico's efforts to fight drugs like the deadly synthetic opioid fentanyl, which is manufactured by Mexican. There's the C word, using chemicals imported from China, have weakened in the last year. Their efforts have weakened in the last year. So that's a oddly written sentence, but if you read it right, Mexico's efforts to fight that drug have weakened in the last year, and which is why she's not really willing to want to talk about. Well, she says drugs are a U.S. problem. Okay. If you make it a U.S. problem, they're going to find a U.S. solution, and usually that doesn't end up well for the other person. Scheinbaum said Mexico suffered from an influx of weapons smuggled in from the United States and said the flow of drugs is a problem for public health and consumption in your country's society. So, as you can see, it's not an illegal thing. It's not a lawful thing. It's not a violence thing. It's not a business. It's just a sick society. Which, yeah, she has a point. It's half and half. It's 50-50, supply and demand. I get it. But for her, it's all demand. The supply isn't the issue. It's all demand. Okay. That's fine. That's one way to look at it, I guess. And so the influx of weapons, if you don't guard your own border, there's going to be plenty of stuff that comes back over. Okay. Again, this person has multiple degrees, and I know I'm looking at it going, okay, well, she can't be smarter than I am because I look at that and go, no, duh. No kidding. If you don't want the weapons coming back over the border to the people that you don't want the weapons to go to, you have an army. Put it there. Stop it. Do something. But they don't. Oh, here we go. Here's what I said. When I said leftist ideologue, this is where we got. And this is the person that's going to go toe-to-toe with Trump on this. And again, good luck with that. Everybody thinks they're hot shit until they actually get in front of the guy. I've seen career politicians, magnificent career politicians who are some of the best debaters out there, just get shredded by this guy, just get put down. All right, Scheinbaum also criticized U.S. spending on weapons, okay, saying the money should instead be spent regionally to address the problem of migration. Basically, we should not spend money on our own defense, and we should send money here to help fix the problem. If a percentage of what the United States spends on war were dedicated to peace and development, that would address the underlying cause of migration. Okay. Again, there's a fair amount of truth in that statement, but there's a little bit of you need some self-accountability in that one as well. You need some self-accountability. Scheinbaum's bristly response suggests that Trump faces a much different Mexican president than he did in his first term. And again, back in 2018, former President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador was a charismatic old school politician who developed a chummy relationship with Trump. By the way, this guy was kind of funny. As president, he refused to live in the presidential palace. He refused to do all the trappings and all that stuff. He would fly commercial. It's crazy. The president of Mexico had to go somewhere, he would fly commercial because he's like, why should I spend money that I shouldn't have to spend? Granted, his policies, I wasn't a big fan of a lot of his policies in relation to how they relate to the United States. But, as a guy, as a guy starting to say, listen, this is, he doesn't think he's anything more special than the next person. Again, you got to appreciate that kind of attitude sometimes. Let's see here. The two, with Trump and Obrador, were eventually able to strike a bargain, which Mexico helped keep migrants away from the border and received other countries deported migrants. Trump backed down on the threats. So, the Remain in Mexico, the famous Remain in Mexico. Again, here's the thing where it talks about she's a stern leftist ideologue trained in radical student protest movements, which, oh boy, less willing to pacify or mollify Trump. Here we go. And here's, like I said, the new attitude. We negotiate as equals. There is no subordination here because we are a great nation, Sheinbaum said, while adding, I think we're going to reach an agreement. Okay. I can't wait to see how this one goes. But Gabriela Siller, there we go. Gabriela Siller, director of economic analysis of the financial group Banco Base, fears the personality clash could escalate things into brinksmanship. Trump clearly hates to lose. Yeah, he hates to lose. Yeah. So if you keep pushing him, he's going to push back, and he's going to push back. Trump may have just tossed the threat out there as he does, Siller said, but Mexico's response that we're going to respond to you with tariffs will make Trump really impose them. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. He's unpredictable. Normal politics would say, U.S. president says, I'm going to impose tariffs on you. Whatever country he's imposing tariffs or threatening that would say, I'm going to impose tariffs on you, and they both kind of back down. And they go, okay, we don't want that. Let's find common ground. No, with Donald Trump, we've seen this with history. He doesn't make idle threats. And when you call him out and say, you're making an idle threat, he's going, no, I'm not. And he's going to do it. Whether he wanted to do it in the first place or not, that's his style. So again, it's not clear how serious Trump's threat is. It's very serious. Okay, so to the AP, in case you haven't figured it out, he's deadly serious. The U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement forbids just imposing tariffs on other member countries. Yes, it does. But if you have a reason to do so, there's loopholes. Trump wrote the whole agreement with the Mexico-Canada, U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. He helped write it, so he knows what's in it and what's not. And it's not clear whether the economy could even tolerate sudden levies on imports. Auto plants on both sides of the border rely on each other for parts and components, and some production lines could screech to a halt. Again, he's playing chess. If that happens, he's going to be like, yeah, but you can make these things way cheaper over here. Here's all the tax incentives I'll give you. Here's all the... Move the plan on over. And if you don't think automakers are thinking about that right now, believe me, they are. He didn't just do this for immigration. He just did this to set up some economic moves as well. Quote, it is unacceptable and would cause inflation and job losses in Mexico and the United States, Sheinbaum said while offering to talk about these issues. If tariffs go up, who will get hurt? General Motors, she said. General Motors is already hurting, so anything different we can do to help them out, fine. But again, this last statement just makes me go, it's sort of like, I don't know, it doesn't seem really sort of authentic. Job losses in Mexico and the United States. Yeah, okay. We'll see. Dialogue is the best path to achieve understanding, peace, and prosperity for our two countries. I hope our teams can meet soon. Okay. Late Monday, Trump said he would impose the 25% tax on all products entering the country from Canada and Mexico, and an additional 10% tariff on goods from China as one of his first executive orders. The thing's already written, folks. That executive order is already written. Believe me, the lawyers already wrote that up. It's already passed through multiple filters to make sure it would pass muster at any level of Supreme Court, federal judge, whatever. The tariffs, if implemented, could dramatically raise prices for American consumers on everything from gas to automobiles to agricultural products. Okay. It depends on where, again, let's just take that. Everything from gas, he wants to drill in the United States and make our own gas. So, okay. Again, there's multiple dimensions. People are just looking at this from one way. Yeah, gas will go up for imported gas, but not for the gas that he wants to drill for and refine in America. Automobiles, again, he wants to move those plants to America so they make them in America. And agricultural products. If there's one thing Trump wants to do, it's make sure the farmers have as much as they can. He's always talked about that. So again, it's all about moving everything back in the United States. The U.S. is the largest importer of goods in the world, with Mexico, China, and Canada its top 3 suppliers, according to most recent U.S. Census data. Again, he's looking to change that. Trump made the threats Monday in a pair of posts on his Truth Social site in which he railed against the influx of illegal immigrants, even though apprehensions at the southern border have been hovering near 4-year lows. Oh, just because it's good today. It just goes on. January 20th. That's when he gets inaugurated. The tariffs remain in place until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl and illegal aliens, stop the invasion of our country. Both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to easily solve this long-simmering problem. We hereby demand that they use this power. Trump went on, and until such time that they do, it is time for them to pay a very big price. And that's where the AP ended the article. So it's real interesting being an American living in Mexico. You kind of see all this kind of infighting, and like, I didn't do it. I'm cool. I'm just here. Just want to relax and enjoy my time. But people ask me my opinion on this stuff all the time. I give it to them. Again, I don't see, I mean, he always wants to make a deal. And that's great. So maybe he makes a deal, but if you stand up to him and say, go screw, or you try to say, you're going to try to stand toe to toe with him, it's not going to work. It doesn't work with him. It just doesn't. It never has. It never will. And again, this is what I think you can call this his number one promise from his number one promise. I just lost my headphones from the campaign trail. So he's not going to back down. So she can say whatever she wants. So getting real interesting. And by the way, so give you guys an idea what it is like U.S.-Mexico relations. I'm going to tell you a little story about like what happens when Trump is in office and what happens, or when he's elected, and when Biden was in office. So when my wife and I first moved down here, it was just about I want to say 6-7 months into the Biden administration. Now, before that, everything was Trump and his economic policies. And when we looked at how much $1 US is in Mexican pesos, I'll probably get factored. It was about between 22 and 24 pesos, which is an amazing exchange rate. So, like, all right, so we moved down. We're just like, okay, our money will, how long, you think of financially how long money lasts. And anybody who either comes on vacation to any country, especially Mexico, is going to look at that exchange rate. And you got to look at it daily. It changes daily. Sometimes. But the other half of that coin is when an administration takes office, it takes about 6 to 12 months for economic policies to have a real effect. And just happened to be between 6 and 12 months into the Biden administration is when we came down here. And so it was at 22 pesos per every US dollar. I think the lowest is, it dropped down to 15 pesos. And I really want you to think about it. People, it's just 15 pesos still. It's almost 30% of the value of the dollar just tanked. I mean, just tanked under when Biden took office in the policies. The value, so you talk about inflation. That's inflation. I mean, that's in a devaluation of the US dollar. And so as soon as Trump got elected, or when it became clear, actually about a month before the election, it was clear that, the polls had him just, and economic markets don't care about fake news. Like, I get it. Some polls out there and some news stations like, oh, Kamala's going to win or what. Economics don't care about that stuff. They're gonna find out the truth thing. So you follow the money, right? So it was about a month before the election, you started to see the U.S. dollar become real strong against the peso. It started going up 16, 17 pesos, 18, 19, 20, 21. So it's been bouncing between 21 and We bounced between 20 and 21 and a half pesos ever since then. Because they're anticipating the different economic policies and agenda being put in by the next administration. So living in Mexico, you have to pay attention to this stuff. So you think leaving the country, I love these people who think like, granted, if you're a millionaire actor or whatever, or you're some celebrity, you want to leave the country, it doesn't matter where you go, you're rich, right? But if you're like a normal person, like me, and probably like most of you watching, you have a nest egg or you have a certain amount in your bank and you want to try and make it stretch. So you think you can leave the country. So I see all these people, I'm leaving the country because I don't want to deal with Trump. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to. You still have to, because you got to figure out what's going on economically, because and what those policies are being put in place and how it's going to affect you. And one day I'll have my wife on and she'll tell you every day there's an app I use and I check the exchange rate. Because if because all of a sudden the exchange rate shoots up to something crazy because of something happened in the market, and I say, oh wow, that's amazing. I'm going to the ATM and I'm taking out some pesos, right? As opposed to, because you don't know if it drops down, that's your money. I mean, you can, it's like saying, hey, would you rather have $1 or would you rather have 60 cents? So you're going to want the dollar. You're going to choose the dollar every time. So it's simple anecdotal evidence about being an American, depending on who the president is in the country of Mexico, and probably every other country as well. Like I said, one of my kids lives internationally, and that gets real interesting over in Europe. It is what it is. I can't wait to have him back here. He's going to be back here, and he'll be back on podcasting with me or going live with me, as he was doing that over the summer. So it'll be fun. But anyways, so people think, oh, I'm going to leave the country. I don't care about Trump. You better. That's your money. Oh, one other thing too. People who if you come to Mexico and you're like, I'm just going to take money out of the ATM, be real careful. One, security, whenever you use an ATM, you want to be careful. Number two, so where I live right now, I can walk 3/4 of a mile that way and use an ATM. And there'll be a VAT tax, value added tax. Everybody has to pay. And it'd be 44 pesos. Basically $2. $2 is $2. If I walk that way, half a mile, and use the same bank's ATM that way, it's 30 pesos. So you save money. As well as check that conversion rate. Like I said, be very careful when using ATMs, because some of them will give you the option and some of you don't. I only use ATMs that give me the option. So it'll say you have to accept the value added tax. You can't get around that. That's a national thing. But then the bank will say, would you like to use our conversion? And I'm like, no, because they're giving me, so if I look on my app and it says one US dollar is 20 Mexican pesos, the bank wants to use our conversion. We'll give you only 18 pesos for it. So it's another fee, but you can decline that. So do that and save you a lot of money, especially if you're going to live long-term down here. And it's helpful as well. And then one other thing I learned about what the agenda is, and what politics are, economic policy is, when it comes to inflation and when it comes to interest rates and things like that, using credit cards down here. I didn't know this. I actually talked to somebody at Visa, and I called and talked to somebody at MasterCard, and they were explaining to me. So if I walk into a store, like I have this nice 55-inch TV that I play video games on. It's right in front. You can't see it because it's behind the camera. But if I walk into the department store here and I pull out my credit card, my American credit card, right? And I buy that TV and it's, let's say it's 20,000 pesos, whatever, right? Just say that. 20,000 pesos, which it wouldn't. It would be right here. Just easy. So it's 20. They scan my card, they slide my card or whatever. And I sign it away. And I think, well, I paid 20,000 pesos for that. Wait, you got to convert that to dollars. And here's the thing. The credit card company doesn't use the interest rate. It's a higher interest rate because it's a foreign purchase. because there's different fees attached to it. So it actually is a higher interest rate. So if I bought that TV today with my card, the credit card company goes, well, their computers didn't actually process that until 3 days later. So it's like luck of the draw. They're going to go off of the exchange rate at that point in time as well. So they're going to say, oh, wait, the exchange rate was way better when I scanned my card. Now it's worse. And now it's costing me more dollars than I thought. So then you get a surprise statement. So you think it's just, those things happen. So it's very odd the way they do this. So it's very important you keep an eye on that stuff. So it's being an American right now, watching Trump and watching everything change and watching people anticipate things economically is extremely interesting being down here. So I try not to use credit cards down here because there's so much funny business that goes on with them. It's just really interesting. I had one credit card company tell me that they could not tell me some certain information about my account and certain purchases. And I said, why? They said, well, because we don't save that information. I go, but you're charging me. It's amazing what happens. So just, I'm going off on a tangent on credit cards now. Don't get me started. But yeah, so what's it like being an expat? What's it like being down here? It's fun. It really, I love it down here. I really do. I'd answer any question anybody ever has about it, but it's, when you're in the middle of a transition like this, it's even more fun. It's even more interesting. But I would say the general population, and again, Mexico is going to be a lot like the United States. Mexico City is very international, millennium city, whatever you want to call it, right? It's very diverse within itself. And so that's going to be a little bit more liberal, right? Just like it was in New York City. It's going to be a little bit more liberal. But for the majority of the country, I've actually never met one person who said that they would have voted for Kamala or they wished that the U.S. president was Kamala. I have not met that person yet. Everybody just says, yeah, no, we're glad he won. They missed him. They missed him from the side. And they thought that was the best choice. And I think they also look at everything else that's going on in the world. I mean, they're our neighbor, so what affects, what happens to them is what happens to us as the United States, as a country of the United States, is going to have some sort of adverse effects on our neighbors. And they know that. So I think, again, I've not met, hand to God, I've asked, and I've had so many conversations about it. I've not met one person from here to Mexico City to all around who said that they wanted the other candidate to win over Donald Trump. So that's how people feel. Because again, what you're seeing in our country, I see your country. I've been down here so long now, it's almost like this has almost become my country. What we're seeing in our country up there, it leaves a trail of just as much mess as it ends up being up there, almost. So ordinary Mexican citizens don't want that. They're very proud. I mean, this is honestly, it's amazing. Like when they celebrate their Independence Day. I remember one of the last few Independence Days in the United States. It's almost like an icky thing to like, oh, I'm going to go celebrate our independence. And people are like, independent. Everyone's like, they're so down. It's like, they look down, but like, no, man, this is your country. I know we've done good. We've done bad. Every country has. Almost like you should be ashamed to celebrate your country. Come here. I don't care what party you're at. I don't care where you are politically. You're a Mexican. They love it. They love you. They love each other. They love their country. They celebrate it. The huge flags everywhere. It's amazing. It's friggin' amazing to watch and see that type of patriotism go on. And it's very meaningful down here. And where I am now, I'm only a stone's throw away from Fort Laredo, which when I met my wife well over 20 years ago, and she had come to the United States, and it was coming up on on Cinco de Mayo. And I said, "Oh, what do you want to do for Cinco de Mayo?" I figured, be a good boyfriend. She's Mexican. And she looked at me and she said, "What the hell's Cinco de Mayo?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "No clue, right?" That was a holiday that was celebrated in one town and one city. It wasn't really this big region. She grew up in Mexico City. She's like, "What the hell's Cinco de Mayo?" She's like, "That's an American holiday to sell beer." That's what it was. That got turned into an American thing to sell beer and sell chicken wings. That's what that was. Now it's a big thing down here because they see there's some commercialization, but also it's become such a big thing around the world with the culture. But Fort Laredo is the fort. I mean, people are like, well, I ask people, were you celebrating Cinco de Mayo? Do you even know what happened? The Mexican army held off the invading French. And they held them off at this one place, this one fort. And I actually been to the fort. And I'm like, you see the rolling hills and things like that. You imagine the French coming up. But it's just that type of patriotism. They celebrate. It's a very, you walk into that fort and the people who are working there, the guards, the security, they're taking care of it. And again, we talk about the patriotism. It's so well honored and taken care of. You feel it. It's not just like another statue, another monument. It's just, you feel it. So, but they take great pride in it. So that's living down here in Mexico. That's living down here in Mexico. There's so much more to living in Mexico. I could do video after video of just living in Mexico, but let me get off of this. Oh, I had these up. This is totally out of context right now, but looks like they're making money. Those videos, those movies. Here I am. I'm back again. Ba-da-ba. So yeah, so many videos I could do, and I'll start peppering in a lot of the Mexican, what it's like living down here. Because there's so many, there's so many channels out there that are like, I'm an expat, and they all look like they're all on vacation all the time. That's not reality. Okay, if you watch a YouTube channel and it looks like people are on vacation all the time and they're expats and they move down and they're like, unless they're rich, independently wealthy, I look at it and go, that's not reality. I live here too. That's not reality, And of course, a lot of them, a lot of the channels, you see, I moved to Querétaro. Okay. I've been to Querétaro. Yes, it began as a very traditional Mexican city. It is so modernized, westernized, Americanized. It's insane. So I like talking about living in Mexico because I read, I think people watch these fantasies, right? Living in any country, you're going to have to kind of figure out how to live within the culture and within your means. But I see these fantasies of just like, okay, that's not how that works. That's not how that works. And they don't show you half the stuff that you should know about, just the different little items, the different little, like I'll give you one. When you come to Mexico, if you're a couple, male, female, right? This doesn't for anybody else, right? This is just for heterosexual, right? Because it's just the way it's perceived. Not because I have anything against anybody else. That's not the case. But if you walk down the street, and I always hold my wife's hand when I walk down the street, and she's always on the inside. She's never on the outside next to the curb, because if she's on the inside, that's me making a statement saying, this is my wife, leave her alone. Don't bother her. Don't bother her. This is my wife, right? If she's on the outside, it means that she's not necessarily my wife. She might actually be somebody I'm offering for a price. I didn't know that for about the first 6 months, and then one of my buddies down here told me, and I'm like, oh, okay. Not so much in Mexico City. Again, that's more of you go to Mexico City, it's different, but you go outside Mexico City, especially some of the more rural places. That's what I was told, and I'm like, all right. So every time we go out walking, I'm like, she goes, I just shove her over, like, get over here, you're not out of your mind. So, but yeah, you don't hear stuff like that, or you don't hear that. Oh, here's one for you. Here's one that I surprised me when I first saw it. When I was a teenager, or when I was even younger than a teenager, I got a job bagging groceries at the local grocery store. They don't have that here. You go into the grocery store, they have people bagging, but those aren't employees. Well, they're kind of employees, but they don't get paid. You have to tip them. So if they bag you, and they're usually elderly citizens that just looking for some money to make out their days and their golden years because they maybe they don't have a lot in their nest egg. So everything's reusable bags. So you give them the reusable bags to these elderly workers. They bag your groceries. Some of them are better at it than others. Okay. But when you're done, you give them between 5 and 10 pesos, or if they did, but that's, they go there and they're there all day. And what money they get in their hand, in their pocket, that's their pay. They go away with it. Crazy, right? And if you don't, I didn't know that at first when I started shopping. And then I felt like a total dink because how many times did I go grocery shopping? This guy helped me, or this elderly woman helped me bag my groceries. I thought they were working there, and I didn't give him a peso, not one. And I'm like, oh man, I'm a cheap bastard. I felt terrible. So now I kind of opened them. I was like, just give him 10 pesos. That's no more. I'm like, here's 20. And she's like, no, that's too much. I'm like, you start feeling bad. The guys in the parking lots with the whistles. Here's the last one I'll give you. The guys in the parking lots with the whistles are not employees. And you do not have to pay them anything. And what do I mean by that? Every parking lot I ever go into, there are these guys out there. They got vests on, reflective vests, and some of them say security, some say attendant. That's their own. They bought that somewhere. These people don't work in the parking lots, but they got whistles and they're helping you park and helping you. Oh yeah, it's good. You can see. It's clear. You can park. They tell you where to park. Like there's open space here or whatnot, and they expect you to give them some money for that. They don't work there. They annoy me. I'm like, don't whistle. They have these whistles and they start whistling at me. I'm like, don't whistle at me. I'll park where I want to park. Don't tell me where to park. It's just, But anyways, but again, it's part of the culture. It's one of the things where I'm like, that's the one where I kind of that's the hill I'm going to die on, I guess. So, but being an expat, like I said, being an American in Mexico right now is getting so interesting. It's getting so interesting. Anyways, with that, I've had a lot of fun talking about this stuff. Earlier today, I was streaming video games, which you'll see me stream video games. If you subscribe and you put on notifications, you'll see sometimes I stream video games. When my son gets here, you see me stream video games with him. Usually we play MLB, and it's just him kicking my ass all the time, and then it's me swearing. But that's me. Streaming video games. So I did some streaming today. Posted a video this week's comic verse. I started out Christmas with our comic book video. But yeah, and then here I am talking in Mexico, just about whatever's coming up in politics and pop culture. That's what I do. So if this is fun, if you like listening to me, that's awesome. Appreciate it. Appreciate the like, the subscribe, the share, the comment, anything. Love it. I do this for fun. When I get to our house, we built when I get to a more permanent house, because this is actually an Airbnb. Everything you see behind me, I kind of cobbled together as a studio. I said, okay, I need someplace nice. And represents me, books. I was an English teacher at one point. So books, all my popcorn buckets and stuff like that. And then the paintings behind are mine. So when I get a space where I can paint, I'm actually going to have another live stream where we're just talking paint at the same time too. I'm not a very good painter. Usually you just get silly on the fumes, but yeah. But with that, I've really enjoyed it. I'm going to go and grab something to eat and have a nice evening. And I will see you all later. I know normally I do this on Mondays, but I did on Tuesdays. I'll see you either, I think Friday is the next time I'll see you. And from south of the border, I'm still your reluctant Gringo. Salud, a huevo, and Feliz Navidad at this point, and happy Thanksgiving if you're in the United States. Appreciate you. Everybody have a good one. I'm going to get out of here. Boom.